Hello, ARC family. Welcome to the ARC journey. I have with me today um, uh, Pastor Mike, who is the Allegheny Region Conference president, and I have Kathy Foor with us, who is the director of the National Women's Ministry for the Churches of God General Conference. And we have been having these ongoing conversations. Um, and I thought it would be really good for us to be able to bring it to you and include you in that conversation. But the real question that we have been bantering around is how do we create a discipleship culture in our congregations, right? And the challenge is how do we create a discipleship culture or rebirth that value in our culture with churched people? And from that, from that conversation, I think I have kind of thought about three different steps or three different things that elements that need to be taking place. And the first one is defining discipleship. For the longest time, we didn't even have a accurate or a consistent definition of discipleship, so that when we talked about it, we were all kind of know what we each were talking about. And we don't all exactly need the same. It just kind of has to hold together the same elements so that we know or have this common language together. And I've adopted it from Bobby Harrington. And his definition is a disciple is someone who's following Jesus, being transformed by Jesus, and on Jesus's mission. And it's simple. It's just a simple idea that we can rally around with three components, and and then with that is helping to define process, the process of discipleship. And I think for many of us, that's our congregations, that's kind of what we're trying to piece together now is what are we going to introduce that will help us. Those are the different tools that we're picking up. I know for Pastor Mike at the Latrobe Church, they've been introducing or working through like him, which comes from Dr. Marcus John and what he's been working out with the Grange Church. So it's awesome to be able to share these kinds of ideas together, and it's just a way of framing discipleship, which is the second. So kind of the second point is reframing the idea of discipleship in the congregation, which is that and I know, my Pastor Mike, you have talked about this. This has even brought some grief, but it is the is changing our focus so that it includes discipleship elements in everything that we do. It becomes a part of, we are a disciple making church, right? It's a part of the shifting of culture. And then I think the third element is the modeling. And how do we help people who are being discipled see that, experience that, so they can then go on to be disciple makers themselves. And I think, Kathy, your introduction of right now media's woven, and the way that you are launching that in the Latrobe Church right now with their women is an incredible opportunity for modeling. So I just wanted to throw this out. What are the challenges? What are we seeing happening? And how can we encourage our pastors? So Pastor Mike, would you talk a little bit about like him and how that the challenges of some of that and in defining the discipleship culture?
Yeah, that all started with our relationship with Rush City Church a couple years ago, and then Marcus expanded that and came up with his own version of the wheel. And basically, we need to be like him, and that's learn from his word, imitate Christ in prayer, keep up godly fellowship, and exercise generosity. Those first four elements are us, changing us from the inside out. And then that moves to the him part, where you hold people in prayer, other people in prayer. You invite people to Jesus, and then you mentor the invited, which is the core of the whole thing. But I think a lot of times we get stuck in the like part. We're learning from His Word. Great, Bible studies are great. We're praying. Maybe we're not imitating Christ in prayer, but we're moving towards that. We want to pray like Him. And we're definitely keeping up godly fellowship. We're doing fellowship, worship together. We have, covered dish, parties, all this neat stuff that's great. And again, depending on where this goes, I love fun. I'm not against fun. But we have all that going. And then you exercise generosity. We give our tithes, we give our gifts. And a lot of people, I think that's what church is. That's good. We want people to come to that. But then that shift where you got to push over the line is now we need to be praying for other people. Who can God lead us to? Who are we going to reach with the gospel? Do we even want to share the gospel with people? Then we invite people to Jesus. You got to come meet this guy. You got to come see what he did. Come meet Jesus. And then we mentor. And that's really, I think, what we're talking about today is what does that look like then to really mentor or make disciples or be a disciple maker? I think that's all the same thing in that mentoring thing. So it's that challenge of moving out of what we've sort of come to know as church and really stress this. We need to be making disciples. Matthew 28, right? Go and make disciples. As you are going, make disciples. So that's why we locked onto this like him thing. So all of our announcements in the bulletin are arranged around that. If you need help imitating Christ in prayer, there they are. We've got stuff there. So that's been really a good thing, a big transition, and people are getting more excited about that as we move into this year.
I think when we talk, Kathy, one of the challenges is how do we reintroduce discipling elements to women's ministry, and how do we? And I guess I just want to turn it over to you. What are some of the challenges that you guys are facing, and how are you overcoming them? How does woven fit into this? And
Yeah, so I think the beauty of and how woven fits into this is I just really feel if we want to make an impact in changing the culture to be a more disciple making culture, the first step has to be, hey, let's just get the conversation going. Let's talk about it because there are things holding us back from doing what Jesus called us to do. So let's talk about those things. And so what I love about this program, it's called Woven, the Art of Making Disciples. And I love that. And so right off the bat, the ladies in the discussion, there are short video portions but that have addressed some of the critical things that keep us from doing what God called us to do. Like the idea that this is some program, we have to adopt a new program. I'm already busy doing what I am doing, or I can't disciple anybody. I'm not equipped for that, or I don't have time for that, and so addressing those obstacles and realizing that, women are already very relational, so is our God. And if we can understand disciple making is a relational thing, right? Then everything we're doing is about developing one, our relationship with Jesus when he says, follow me, right? And he says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And for us women, most of us aren't fishermen, but you get, if you want to catch fish, you have to throw the net out. And so what I love about the program is and it is a program to get the conversation started. It's not a program to say, this is how you disciple, because that's going to look different for all of us. But it helps to see that maybe one of the things holding us back from making disciples is we've made it just way too complicated. And disciple making can be as simple as praying and asking God, who does he want me to initiate a relationship with that is a person who needs the gifts and the stories that he's given me to share? And asking the Lord for the courage to then initiate that relationship and invite that person, right, into relationship by inviting them to do stuff. Maybe the stuff we're already doing, right? And think about, and this is where the intentionality comes in. If we're not intentional about making disciples, we won't be making disciples because you can get together and have fun and not have it be in any way. It can be just fun, and that's okay. But if we want to make disciples somewhere, we've got to be learning to bring Jesus into the conversation, to help, even if that's even if that's just, hey, how can I pray for you? Is there any way I can pray for you? Hey, what's the biggest struggle you're having right now? It's learning questions, the right questions to ask to help people go deeper, because people know they need the Lord. That people will respond if we reach out to them in love. And so that's what I love. The beauty of this is, hey, let's talk about it. And what I'm finding is the ladies who are participating with me, and I'm doing it right now at Latrobe, but I'm also doing a Zoom group with some regional leaders around the conference. And it can be the most, wow, I just never thought about disciple making that way. And it's like, maybe it isn't as complicated as I've been making it. Hey, I can do that. And so it's just been fun to see the power of getting together and encouraging one another to take this step of obedience, um, to make disciples.
Yeah. How
Can I
long?
say, can I add
Yeah.
one quick
Yep.
thing? The thing that's really neat about the way you phrased all that is it's the title of the thing is the art of making disciples, not the science of making disciples or the spreadsheet of making disciples. It's an art, and it changes depending on different people's gifts and skills and who you talk to, what kind of people you're around. And that's what I like about what you were saying. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It's just understanding that every opportunity you have can be an opportunity to share Jesus, make a disciple, start a conversation or a relationship.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, very few times have I invited, one of the things that I like to do is invite someone for lunch or breakfast, or, because then you have a good hour of time just to find out about them and find out about what they are. And that gives you opportunity to share, some of the things God's teaching you. I've never once had someone turn me down for a breakfast or lunch invitation. Never once. And usually it turns into another one, because it is very uplifting to share time with people. The art of it is, do we include Jesus in the conversation? And that it does take some, we have to be intentional about what, you know gravitating the conversation um to Jesus. And sometimes that can be, hey, invite somebody along who's better at it than you. um, and learn ways to ask the right questions, so that people will open up and share a little bit more of themselves, and then give you the opportunity to share.
Yeah, but I remember starting this when I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what the right questions were. I didn't even know objectively what I was. I know I wanted them to follow Jesus, but I mean, I started in youth ministry, and we always had kids at the house. There was almost a never, except for when it was bedtime, there was almost never not kids at the house. They would
Mhm.
just either come by, or they were invited over, or and it would be a gang of kids. It would be one-on-ones. It would just be, and so life happened with those kids in the house. That was discipleship for us. We were doing discipleship, and they got to help wash the dishes, or they folded laundry with Nancy, or they would even help mow the grass. I mean, it was the things in life that were happening, and those become the modeling times when a disciple is just walking alongside and seeing how you deal with daily life. And I think one of the challenges for us, Mike and Kathy, is that as pastors, we've become so busy. And maybe it's not just pastors. Maybe it's just all of us. We have become so busy with our lives, and our so schedules are so detailed that we do not have time. We do not have availability to do stuff like this. we're asking people to be able to disciple someone, and the reality is maybe they need to slow down and cut stuff out of their life to be able to spend time with Jesus and each other.
No, I think that's a good point. And to make it even more simple or simplify it even more, I've been challenging our church to take a look at all the things Jesus is responsible for. He created everything, he sustains everything, he redeems us, he changes hearts, he created us for a purpose, he created things for us to do. He's done like a lot. I think if you want to make it simple, our job is like, you got to come meet this Jesus. We found him, come meet him and start there. Let's look at Gospel of John or something, just to take away this whole thing like, oh, it's a program, I'm not going to be able to do this. If you can just talk to someone and you've come alive and you say, you got to come meet this Jesus, that's a great starting point to take away a lot of the fear, I think, from people.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, that busyness, Phil, because it 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 it's true, but it's also a lie. Um, we aren't too busy to do what God has called us to do. We are maybe too busy because we're doing a lot of things God hasn't really called us to. That might be good things. And so that's part of our own discipleship, right? If I'm following Jesus, I want to be doing the things he's called me to do. And, if we look at the model that Jesus gave us for discipling people, you never once see Jesus rushing anywhere. You never once see him frazzled because he doesn't know which direction to go. Why? Because he's going where God tells him to go. He's in relationship with the Father constantly, and he's obeying what the Father tells him to do. And he's addressing the people that God puts in his path along the way every day. And Jesus didn't disciple with a program. Jesus discipled by making relationships with people and going deep with them and going deeper with them. And by the way, he didn't disciple everybody. He had large group things where people listened in, but he focused on those few that were close, the few that would listen and stay with him. And so sometimes we just make it too big to even want to jump in the river, so to speak. And so I think that's a really critical thing, is if we can learn to disciple the way Jesus discipled, he kept it very simple.
Yeah,
Really, it was really about building relationships with people. And in the everyday things that were happening to them, he was teaching them truths about the kingdom of God. And we've all learned truths about the kingdom of God that someone who hasn't learned them needs to hear. And
That I think that's a big point too, because a lot of times when we're talking about making disciples, we're going to go make disciples. Um, we put all this pressure on ourselves, and it has to be this and that. And then what happens is if we turn discipleship into like a chore or a project where we need to find people and disciple them, if we're not doing that with the love of Jesus, then it gets really ugly. It gets really fake. People see right through that. So the goal is, do I want to make disciples of Jesus because he's done that in my life and I love these people? Or is it like, I'm going to fix all these people because they're wrong and I'm going to fix them? That's not disciple making. That's, I don't know what it is, but it's not, I think
it's
what you were saying.
abuse.
It's not how Jesus. Yeah, it's not how Jesus.
It's abuse. Yeah. So bringing this back and probably bringing it home, you said something in our pre-conversation or one of our conversations about Bill Shoemaker's comment. My question always is my lament is why is it so hard to change our culture? And one of the things that Bill said, can you remind me? Did I remind you of what he said? Can you share it?
Yeah, he was talking about the DNA of a church is the DNA of a church. Like you can shape culture, you can move culture and shit, but you can't change DNA. Like I can't change my DNA. So the only way you change DNA or get new DNA is you bring you mate. I mean, that was his thing. Like you reproduce. So in a church, he said, if you can take your DNA and find another group, another thing, or whatever, and do something new together, now you start changing DNA. Now, and like Kathy pointed out earlier, that's different than like we can definitely change the culture. We can focus on things and we can do that. But the core DNA, this is who our church is. That's great. God's called us together. And how does he want us to expand that and multiply that?
Yeah, because it is Jesus that makes and defines the DNA, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one that can change the DNA. And when we look at culture, one of the defining characteristics of culture is rituals and values, behaviors and beliefs and how they're interacted out. And so values can shift. But how long have you been working on this idea? How do we bring discipleship to the women of the Churches of God General Conference? How do we bring a discipleship culture? How long have you been wrestling with that, Kathy?
Okay, well, so I'm in my seventh year, and this was the mission that was handed to me to help to connect and equip women to live boldly for God and to see with a vision to see women discipling other women. And so and it can get discouraging because you're working at it, trying to figure out how to do this and what it might look like. And there isn't a silver bullet.
Mm-mm.
Everywhere I go, I find people just want the silver bullet. And so, and that's what I love about, okay, now in the seventh year here, okay, it's like, let's just get the conversation started and see what ripples we can create, right? You've got that water behind you. It's like, and so let's just do something. Let's just, and I don't mean a new program. Let's just get together and talk about what it is that it means when it says I'm supposed to be making disciples. And let's just admit that we're not doing it very well. And let's help each other learn what it might look like for me to begin to fulfill the call that God has given me to make disciples. And so I decided I was going to invite some women in with me so we could have the conversation. And it's been very encouraging to see the ladies who are participating actually feeling excitement for the first time about, oh, maybe this is something I can do. Maybe this isn't as hard as I thought. Maybe I don't have to have it all together before I start um, investing in someone else's life. And so that's the fun of it. Then together we can grow to do what God's called us to do.
Yep, and I've seen, so this is a word of encouragement. I have seen from the back, I've been watching as the Flourish conference has been shifting into a discipleship from a celebration, right? From just a celebration kind of let's get together to becoming a more of a disciple centric kind of an event. I've watched as the expansion has happened of the executive group to continue to expand, to invite more. Who else is God lining up for us to invite along? And how do we invite them into this process so that we can disciple them? And I've been watching and remembering Pastor Mike saying 10 years ago, discipleship again, that's what our focus is going to be. And it's like, yup, that's it.
Now, hold on. In my defense, though,
Yep.
that came out of a weekend conference where we, in my opinion, came out of it thinking we need to be making disciples. And my comment was, that's Matthew 28. When are we going to, like, how do we do this? So it's not
Right.
that I'm against disciple making.
No, 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 no. I think it was a perfect response because back in 1990, the whole denomination decided that's what we needed to do was make disciples. And it was like, okay, um, how do we do that? What is it? So this is where I think it comes down to. really these three benchmarks or these three things we need to be focusing on in the congregation, which is defining discipleship with a discipleship definition and a process definition, reframing discipleship, reframing events that happen in the congregation, and modeling.
Yeah.
And we as the leaders, and thank you, Kathy, for leading the way on this. Thank you for Mike for what you've been doing in making this happen, in modeling by reevaluating our time, and is our time spent making disciples and what Jesus wants us to do, or is it doing chores and tasks that our job descriptions tell us we need to be doing? And I think that's the discouragement we get, and we want to see something happen right away. And I don't know if this shift is going to even happen in my lifetime, but I want to see it come back. I want to see this be a part of this is who we are. If you come into this church, you will become a part of really a part of our family. And there is a
Mm,
seat at our table all the time, and we will continue to do life together.
mm.
And I think that's how Jesus made disciples. Come and sit with me. You travel with me. You sleep where I'm going to sleep. You live where I'm going to live. And reevaluating our own lives in light of that is the challenge.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, defining, reframing, modeling. Any last comments, Mike?
Just this whole thing seems to be moving towards shifting disciple making from a chore to making disciple making a privilege. Like if we can get that mindset, this isn't a chore. This is a privilege. That this is going to be fun. It's exciting. It's a joy, like Kathy said.
Kathy, any last word? Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say what he said because it was when we were off screen and I shared, when we first of all, disciple making isn't a new passion for me. It's an old passion, but helping other people see the joy of what it is to make disciples. When you have the opportunity to watch someone grow in their relationship with God because of your encouragement and investment in their life, there aren't any words to describe the joy that comes in being able to share that in someone else's life. And yeah, it does take time. It takes a willingness to be vulnerable to people. It takes courage to invite and initiate relationships that you might not otherwise do, but it is so worth it to be part of advancing the kingdom with Jesus.
Mm.
Mm.
There's never a dull moment, and there's such reward in being a part of what he's called us to be. And you're right, Mike, it is a privilege to work alongside Jesus. He knows the people I can reach. That takes the pressure off me. I don't have to reach everybody, just the people he brings me to.
Yeah.
And I don't have to know all the answers because he does. I just have to know how to lead people to the one who has all the answers. And I don't even have to know the whole Romans roads, right?
Right.
I just have to be able to tell the story of what Jesus has done in my life because I'm an expert at that. And that makes it real. And it's just that simple.
Don't overcomplicate it. You keep telling
Exactly.
me that all the time. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Just do what Jesus did. Yeah. So I hope that brings you some encouragement. I hope that helps shape some of the thoughts that you're able to think of this in context of the congregations and communities that you're serving. And I hope that it brings you some hope that this is a long process. This is not a short process, but a long process. And we're running a marathon. So I want to say to all of you, thank you so much for allowing us to talk out loud with you. And hopefully it is helpful for your context, and keep shining. And we'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.